Hello, hi, hello, hi. I'm the Amelia one. My pronouns are she, they. This is FSP Live, Fridays at 4 Eastern, now through probably the end of the run of Murderbot. It is so dark here on Cape Cod. It is currently raining, and my biggest lights are not working. I don't know why. Today we're going to talk about nutrition. That is probably too bright. Okay, that's better. Okay, that's better. I take that. Today we're talking about nutrition, so I am prepared with one of the most nutritious drinks that I mentioned in the nutrition episode. This is the real sugar Pepsi. By real sugar, they mean like the kind like white sugar, like cane sugar, like the kind of sugar you get in, um, you know, take a scoop of it. That sound of the like the can opening, even that like is part of the nutrient, is like that sound of like I'm drinking from a can, which in my childhood, drinking from a can was like we didn't drink from cans. We didn't open cans for beverages. That's what rich people do. Rich people get individual sized beverages. What we drink from is a 2-liter bottle, and then we pour it into a glass. Like drinking from an individual size. Like, guess what? That that's just the unit price on that is so much higher than just the 2-liter of cola, right? So drinking from a can is very fancy. And when I can, I get the like half size little baby ones. Guess what? The unit price on those is even higher. But you know what? It's real nice just to have like a little bit. And yeah, it's nutrition. It's just the nutrient in this Pepsi is childhood reaching back into like the things that made me feel like rich, which like wealth and safety that comes along with knowing like I'm like all the other kids. I'm having a Pepsi. The sound. That sound is part of the nutrition. The pleasure of that bubbling, fizzing, and even now with like the sound of the ice in the glass, like that feels really special. This cup, even this Tervis mug, was a gift from my university students when I was teaching college. They at the end of the year would give me a gift as their like club advisor, and they noticed that I have travel mugs. I always every time they saw me, I had a mug of water. I was always drinking water or coffee. I was a little bit addicted to coffee for several years of my teaching. So they noticed that I always had like a travel mug, but it was usually one of these. And they were like, "Oh, Amelia doesn't have a Tervis." And see, it has this little, it's customized. It says music, and they have my initials on it. And they noticed that I didn't have a Tervis. That this was a kind of travel mug that I lacked. So everything about this Pepsi is so nutritious because it's the flavor of safety and belonging from my childhood, the sounds that evoke that feeling, the cup itself is a reminder of like my thoughtful, generous, wonderful students who are so thoughtful about like, observing a thing that I would enjoy and making it personal for me. So everything about this is so nutritious. Yeah, that tastes like that tastes like 1987. I need to wait for the ice to melt a little more because the flavor is very intense and I enjoy it more when it's a little watered down. But like, Yeah, that tastes like 1987. Like 5th grade. Like, it was so rare and so special that we would get brand name cola? And this is what we talk about when we talk about nutritious food. Food that is good for you because it's good for your soul. Are there any vitamins or minerals in Pepsi with real sugar? No. The real sugar part of it is actually okay, technically, the old-fashioned kinds of sugar, um, are a little bit less vicious for our health than the corn syrup that's used to sweeten everything now, um, but that does not make this a nutritious drink. What it makes the nutrient that's in it is love and nostalgia, and that's why I'm drinking it now. That's why I'm live streaming a Pepsi. It also has caffeine, and it's pretty late in the day for me to be consuming caffeine, but, so I'm probably only gonna drink half, but still, I am enjoying the hell out of it, and like, I can feel a shift in my nervous system from, like, sympathetic, like, I'm worrying about, "Oh, my lights aren't working, and I'm gonna have to fix those, but, like, now's not the time because 'cause I'm about to go do the thing," and all of that, and then I sip this and I feel the shift into, like, say like okay, so in polyvagal theory, the vagus nerve attaches 3 places in your brain. The front is sympathetic. When the front is activated, that's a sympathetic fight or flight. When the back is activated, it's dorsal. It's called dorsal because it's in the back, like your dorsal fin. That is freeze, and in the middle is the tendon befriend, the ventral state, and the ventral state is a state of great safety. Like that's a state where your yeah, your body is free to heal, to promote inflammation reduction, to support its natural detox pathways. And so Pepsi, maybe there might be inflammation of my pathways and stuff because of the sugar, but because it puts me in this ventral state and because I am taking time intentionally to enjoy the hell out of it, it is it does good things for my body. I'm not claiming it has vitamins and minerals. I'm not claiming that this is a thing I should do every day. This is not a thing I do every day. This is a thing I do once or maybe twice a month. Maybe. I keep cans of Pepsi in the refrigerator in my barn. This is my barn. My house is over there. So that they're not in the fridge every day. I don't look at them. They're just here for, you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm gonna have a Pepsi for those rare moments when it's okay to. I'm gonna enjoy this special ventral activating, safe feeling, nostalgia love flavor. It's awesome. Okay. I got a comment on talking about Murderbot last week, which is that casting a straight white man, like a super cis, super blonde, super like conforming to the very narrow socially constructed ideal, like the very narrow socially constructed beauty ideal, like the pretty ideal. Um, what's his name? Alexander Skarsgård. Uh, totally conforms to every possible masculine ideal. And somebody made the point that as casting a security unit, that this is supposed to be a robot construct that evokes a sense of safety in the people whose services they are using, and a default cis white man might culturally feel like an archetype of a security figure. Um, Now this does take place in a dystopian future. Well, dystopian. Yeah, it's dystopian-ish, the future, because it takes place in what they call the corporate rim, where corporations are governments, um, and they are rabidly exploitative capitalist style corporate governments. Um, so certainly there is some, and Martha Wells has talked about like thinking about like the way things are now and like taking it to like the worst furthest extreme of corporate exploitation and how that could end up being this like, future government that goes across multiple planets, um and areas that are run by corporations, and then the few like outlier planets that are run by governments. And indeed the people who run one of these outlier governments, which is basically a socialist government where everyone's needs are taken care of by the administrative leaders, um, are now doing business in the corporate rim. So that's why they are required to have a security unit for insurance reasons, because they are now like part of the corporate rim culture. So they're doing what is required by the corporate rim. And this is why we have this interaction between this like enslaved entity from the corporate rim and these like kind of like super liberal, and like they make the jokes in the you can see in the trailers, you know, somebody calls it Murderbot and somebody says, "Stop calling it that. It's disturbing." And then the person is back, that's what it calls itself. I'm just being respectful. Like, and they're like respectful of its pronouns. And it's all this kind of like lefty, open-minded, accepting anti-slavery. Like they're ones who are like, you know what? Like, we don't approve of slavery. We don't want to treat Murderbot like a slave. We want to like invite it to come be a person in our community, which is very disturbing for Murderbot because it has never known that that was like an option or that humans could be like that. So and you can see that the maybe you can't tell in the trailers, but like the party from the visiting government who have to hire Murderbot are led by a black woman who is explicitly a black woman as described in the book. Um, Her name is Mensa, which I mean like evokes like the Mensa Society for like geniuses. Her name is Mensa, and she is smart and kind and observant and sensitive. And she's the leader, and she's played by the woman who played uh, Eric's mother in the live action version of The Little Mermaid. So, live action version of Little Mermaid, Prince Eric has a mother. Uh, we actually meet his mother, and she's a character who has like an arc. She's like, "Oh, Eric, when will you have to like come around and understand that all these adventures you want to go on, that's unrealistic. We need to just be insular and stay within our own community." And at the end, she's like, "You know what? Exploration, I've learned so much. I can see how important exploration and broadening our horizons is." So her, she plays Mensa, who is like the president of an elected short-term president of this other nation where they don't believe in slavery. And it's a super great. Uh, when I saw the casting, I was like, that is exactly correct. That is perfection. That is exactly how that should be. Okay, so yes, Murderbot being cast as a cis, really masculine, conforming looking person does make sense. That is totally fair. It is not the choice they made for the audiobook. They made the choice for the audiobook to have a black man be the reader. Um, And like in an audiobook, it doesn't matter as much. You'd have to Google Kevin R. Free to know for sure that he's black. But I feel like that was an intentional choice because, again, in our world, the default is cis straight white man. That's like a default human. When you say the word "a person is coming," like for us who live in the white supremacist, cis heteropatriarchal, exploitative, late capitalist patriarchy, white man is the default kind of person. So like I get it. I'd like to think that in the future, um, that will not be the case, but I get how as a packaged product being shown. Thank you. Thank you for getting her name, Robyn, in the chat. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I, as part of the white supremacist, cis heteropatriarchal, late capitalist patriarchy, I want to be respectful and make sure of that I would correctly pronounce the name of someone whose name does not come from those traditions. So sorry. So yeah, I can see. So if in particular, if they cast as the Corporation Rim characters, if they cast that as a white patriarchal society where like all these like people of color on this team from this other planet come in and they're like the thoughtful left-wing socialist anti-slavery people, and like the corporate rim is run by the whites, that would be a great illustration of what Martha Wells talks about when she talks about the corporate rim. So I'm kind of hoping to see that. I did not pay that close attention to the trailer to find out for sure that I could see that, like, is that the case of what they're doing with the casting? I don't know, but I think it was a fair observation in the comments. So you can leave comments. I'll read them eventually, but I'm not great with comments because I'm autistic, which means I have differences in social and emotional communication and reciprocity. So I'm not awesome with comments. But I love to read a thoughtful comment like that. So thanks. One other thing about waiting for Murderbot to come out next week will be the first episode. Very excited, just in time for the end of Andor. Here comes Murderbot to be the thing that I look forward to, entertainment-wise in a week. And what was I going to say about the thing? I forget. Oh, I said last week specifically that Martha Wells knew how autistic coded Murderbot is. She has said in interviews that like she herself was not aware of how neurodivergent her own thinking is until she wrote Murderbot, and people are like, that character's autistic flavored for sure. And she was like, "No, I just thought that character was kind of like me." So that is how she expresses her how she came to feel like Murderbot is going to be autistic coded. Not that he's, diagnosable according to like the DSM or anything. It's just like when an autistic person reads what Murderbot does, it feels like, yeah, it me, baby, it me. Okay, so those are that's the update. This is one of the most nutritious things I can consume. It's Pepsi with real sugar. It doesn't have vitamins or minerals, but it's filled with feelings of love and safety from my childhood. And that's a nutrient too. It's got joy and pleasure. And those are nutrients too. They're important to make sure you get in your diet. Have you had your recommended daily dose of joy and pleasure and feeling of connection with others? That's it's important. And Murderbot, yeah, all right. I can wrap my head around the idea that he's got to be a straight white man to contrast with the everybody from the planet whose name I cannot remember. Like I get it, that contrast could could be an intentional thing rather than just the creators defaulting. It could be them using the contrast purposefully. So that's it for this week. Next week, we're going to be here longer, I think, because we're going to be talking about an actual episode of Murderbot, and I might want to talk about that for longer once I know how awesome or how terrible or how disappointed I am. Thanks for coming and being a person in the world with me, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye. 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 Bye.